Welcome to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Vern Glenn, and Russell Jackman. FP is on vacation. Wish we could all go with him. He's, I think, out of the country right now, having fun.
Yeah, well, why does he need to hang around? There's no baseball.
Well, that's true.
You might as well take a vacation now. It might be a while.
There's no baseball as we record this show.
That's right. And we're
or ever.
Early. We are recording.
In fact, even as I speak, both sides are still talking in Jupiter, Florida.
And isn't tonight supposed to be? This is Monday. This is Monday night, and I think they're supposed to.
Yeah, but you know what, Edward? It's owners' rules. Rules can be bent. You know, it's not like it's a hard deadline. It could be a soft deadline, or it could be an extended deadline. I mean,
that's true.
We got a negotiator here on the show. I mean, yeah, if there's traction, it can be done.
That is
all
true.
Double headers. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be all double headers. So they're going to wait till July, and then every game is going to be a double header with guys starting on second base from the first inning.
No, they're just going to have guys. They're just
first inning
games.
Designated hitter for every batter. So it'll be twice the rosters. The pitchers will have 1 second to throw a pitch.
Yeah, just speed up the game, baby.
It's an instant run on the board. They don't throw a pitch in 1 second.
Bring out the robotic umpire while you're at it.
Yeah, right. That's right.
And the robotic fans.
Yeah. Remember they had the posters or pictures of the people.
It's not that long ago.
No, it wasn't. So hopefully our guest, Steve Baker, who is a sports agent who's been on the show a few times. This is his first Zoom call with us, so he's having a little bit of issues. But hopefully he'll be able to join us in the next segment. And that puts 4 of us, 2 attorneys and 2 non-attorneys. So that'll be kind of an interesting.
Good luck to you guys.
Yeah,
good luck
exactly.
Without bar
All right,
bar numbers.
Stay with us. You are listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here along with Vern Glenn and Russell Jackman. All right, guys, I got a fun story to tell you. So
we'll be the judge of that.
Oh, okay. Well, so Thursday, I'm out to dinner at an event, and I'm sitting next to some people who are in their early 80s, telling them, well, what do I do for a living? And then, oh, by the way, I got the sports show. And he says, oh, yeah, and he goes, yeah, I come from Green Bay, and I went to the first 2 Super Bowls. I said, wow, that's really pretty cool. Tell me more about it. Well, as we get into the story more, turns out that his best friend is Vince Lombardi Jr. Oh, it gets better. It gets better. Wow. His sister married Paul Hornung. Wow. I look at the last name and I looked it up online. Roeder, last name was Roeder. And he said, and then the wife says, oh yeah, she looked pretty much like Elizabeth Taylor. And sure enough, she did, right? Wow. And at the wedding, like the best man was Max McGee.
Max McGee, wow!
Isn't that crazy? And it was so fun because he just kind of said this, like, kind of, oh yeah, oh by the way, I was at the game, and isn't that crazy?
Those were the days where Max McGee would go up for a route, catch a pass one-handed, come out of the game, light up a cigarette, take a couple of drags, go back into the game, catch a touchdown. I mean, it's just amazing.
I thought you guys would appreciate that story. So, Russell, does that count as a fun story?
Half of the team would probably still meet Packers in the off season.
But yeah, back then, sure.
Yeah. So we can go back that far.
Okay. Now I know that eventually when Steve comes on, he's going to want to talk about the MLB lockout and Trey Lance and Jimmy G. So we'll cover other stories. Callaway pulls away from Mickelson as well as American Express. Boy, he's losing.
Told you so.
Right.
Told you guys.
I feel so bad. I mean, this is a guy. He was like Mr. Congeniality. Yeah. Everybody loved him. Yeah. Everybody wanted to be aligned with him. He was the pitch man for. I mean, he just. I have a great story about him. I mean, actually coming on with me before the U.S. Open in 2012, and he just, it's just unbelievable about what has happened to him. But he said what he said, and it just did not go over well. And boy, and then these are corporations that have been with him for years.
Yeah.
And they're jumping off.
I mean, did KPMG? He always had the hat. Did they drop them too?
Yeah.
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 So
the lesson is buy your gas from Saudi Arabia and nothing else.
Yeah. So remind the audience, because some people, this is now a little bit of history.
I'm paraphrasing, but Mickelson was trying to align himself with Greg Norman, who is the man behind the Saudi Arabian Golf Tour. It was going to be a world tour. They were going to play all over Europe, and they were trying to recruit some of the top PGA players to come over and play in this Saudi Arabian tour. Now, this is a tour that was backed by a lot of money. I mean, 10 times the money the PGA could even imagine.
Sure.
And so
all of it covered in blood.
If they could land Phil Mickelson as one of the biggest fish there is, as far as not just on the course, but off the course, Mr. Endorsement, then that would be a really good get for the Saudi Arabian tour.
Yeah.
And then the tour started flexing his muscles, saying, hey, anybody that leaves the tour to go over there is not allowed to play on tour. You just can't jump back and forth. And so players had to choose. And at the 11th hour, there were some players that were going to go over and play in this tour with Mickelson, and then they pulled out and remained with the PGA instead. And so here's Mickelson just alone on an island with nobody else jumping over with him. And then they asked him about the Saudis. It was like, well, they're known for, atrocities against humankind, and they have their feelings about this and women and stuff like that.
They beheaded a journalist just a few months ago or a year ago.
Yeah. But, I think this tour would be good because it would give more power to professional players. Anyway, it just came out in the worst way. And
I'm glad about that. I'm really glad about that.
And we're seeing what's happening.
The Saudis don't deserve our attention. The Saudis never paid what they owed for us for getting involved in 9/11. There's not a lot to love about the nation of Saudi Arabia.
And I think we've got Steve Baker with us.
I see evidence of. I see a phone.
I thought the Saudis were breaking in.
Guys, I seem to have you on phone. I don't seem to have video.
That's okay. All right, good. So
it's probably in the lower left of your screen. You can press next
video. But we can hear you though, at least.
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, so Steve Baker. Let's see. We've got 3 minutes before we have to cut to break. So Steve Baker is a sports agent. Give us your top few. I guess. Wait, are you allowed to talk about your clients, like who you've at least represented?
Sure. I mean, I've worked with a number of clients throughout the league. I mean, back in the '80s, I worked with Lee Steinberg before the Jerry Maguire movie, where I worked on people like Warren Moon and Troy Aikman, and then on my own, I negotiated what was at the time the largest quarterback contract for Jeff Garcia. Yep. And the largest linebacker contract for Ken Harvey from Cal. And I've been doing it in my own business, Baker Sports Management, since 1990.
That's right. Yeah.
Is there, Steve, a signature Steve Baker thing that you throw in the deals that you do? Just to sound a little thing where, yeah, that's the mark of Steve Baker. Yeah, Steve did my deal and put green M&Ms at my locker for every. Is there anything like that?
Well, I think green M&Ms would be a big violation of the salary cap, but red M&Ms are probably okay. No, I mean I've been very proud that I've come up with some unique structures that have gotten deals done when it looked like a deal wouldn't get done. I mean, for example, in the case of Jeff, I put a clause in the contract that escalated the contract to the top of the market if he ended up being one of the top 3 rated quarterbacks in any year, and he ended up passing Brett Favre on the last day of the season, and that ended up, making him the first quarterback ever in the league to make $20 million in 2 years, which seems like ages ago now, because now that's half of what a franchise quarterback should make. It shows how quickly the market has changed.
Well, you
have done a lot of unique things.
Is this the kind of thing where you dealt with teams in person? Was it over the phone, the digital age? I mean, how were these deals done?
they're frequently done in person. There's various degrees. Sometimes they're done in person with on the case of Garcia's biggest deal, I did it face to face with Bill Walsh in his office, which was quite an experience. I mean, midway through the deal, you walk in the other room and you look in the mirror and say, am I really arguing with Bill Walsh how to value a quarterback? A lot of it's by phone. With Ken Harvey, when I did the deal that made him the highest paid outside linebacker, I actually flew to Washington, got an offer, and they were shocked that we had promised the Cardinals that we would give them a chance to match because Ken was very happy in Arizona. So we actually flew back to Arizona the next day. I let the Redskins know that there was no way in the world that the Cardinals were going to match because the deal, as I said, was a precedent-setting deal. Flew back to Phoenix to meet with Buddy Ryan. Buddy Ryan looked me in the eye, said we would never be able to do that deal. I don't believe you have it. I told him we did. The next day he signed with the Redskins, and a day later he said that he was never given a chance to match the offer. So it's an interesting business.
Okay, hey guys, we're going to cut to our first commercial trivia question. And again, if you guys know the answer, don't say anything until we come back from break. All right, we're talking these are baseball questions. All right. What team was featured in the 1951 film Angels in the Outfield? All right, that's our trivia question. Email edward@sportsecon101.com. The answer to this question: what team was featured in the 1951 film Angels in the Outfield? All right, stay with us. You are listening to Sports Econ 101 with Edward Brown, Vern Glenn, Russell Jackman, and our special guest, sports agent Steve Baker. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here along with Vern Glenn, Russell Jackman, and our special guest, Steve Baker. First trivia question. What team was featured in the 1951 film Angels in the Outfield? Now, we all remember
the Angels, but
well, the Angels didn't exist back then. Now, that was the most recent one with Danny Glover and come on, who played? You know,
I'll just guess the Senators.
No,
that was going to be my guess also.
No, it was the Pittsburgh Pirates.
The Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
That's a hard one. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so Steve Baker, sports agent. Give us your lowdown on Trey Lance and Jimmy G. I know you wanted to make some comments about that.
Well, you know, the first thing is I'm getting tired of reading in the paper that the 49ers traded 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance. I mean, the reality is they traded their pick. They traded a total of 3 picks, but they got a pick back. I mean, they traded their first-round pick, which was a mid-first rounder. They traded their first rounder in 2022, which, because the Niners had such a good season, is a late first rounder, which is effectively a second-round pick. Mm-hmm. And they traded a third rounder, which I'm not sure where in the third round that is. But, you know, the bottom line is if Trey Lance turns out to be anything close to what they hope he will be, you know, they traded they made a very reasonable trade for him, given how well they did this year and the lower pick that the Dolphins are going to get from him.
That's a very good point about how, you know, 3 picks doesn't necessarily mean 3 picks. It all depends on.
And the difference between a high first and a low first is frankly much different than the difference between a low first and a high fifth. I mean, the first couple picks in the draft is where you're hoping you're going to draft a future Pro Bowler. And
Steve, I'm a really big 49er fan, and I just wanted to chime in for a second and just say what I think perplexes a lot of fans, Niner fans, is, if I can speak for all of them, is that we've seen the Niner brain trust draft high and make some pretty severe misses, and draft low and find incredible gems. And it's this frustrating thing that if we had done the right thing, say with Trey Sermon, with Dante Pettis, with Bosa obviously was a can't miss deal, but there have been Solomon Thomas and Reuben Foster, and I can keep going on with, you know, high picks that the 49ers have had recently and not gotten what they consider the great value of it. I think there's a fear that Trey Lance might be falling into that mode and not be one of these guys like Deebo Samuel or George Kittle or, you know, guys that they found, Mitchell, you know, Elijah Mitchell, who were deep picks, and then turned out to be much better than the higher picks that the Niners took.
You're definitely, I mean, listen, I mean, the NFL draft is the ultimate reality show, and it's a very uncertain process. I mean, for every Troy Aikman, there's a Tim Couch. For every Baker Mayfield that's probably taken too high, there's a Patrick Mahomes that went 10th and should have gone first. You look at the Rams this year. I mean, people right now are lauding the Rams for their draft approach. They give away high first rounders in exchange for many more mid rounders, figuring that they drastically increase their odds to be successful with the draft. And that's an interesting strategy. But the reality is your best chance to get a franchise quarterback is picking in the first few picks in the draft. Well, but again, I mean, I think there's like a 50% miss rate at the top of the draft on quarterbacks. It's a very uncertain position to draft.
But it also depends on, you know, what positions you need, right? I mean, if you've got a decent quarterback and you can pick a linebacker who you're really in need of, and there's some stellar linebacker who comes out of college, I mean, that could just fit right in your wheelhouse.
Oh, I mean, for example, I mean, I was about to jump down the throat right now when you said the Niners haven't picked well. I mean, Bosa is one of the great picks ever in the draft. I mean, you're talking about arguably the first or second best defensive player in the league. If Kyler Murray had not come out and been taken with the first pick, the Niners never would have gotten a shot at Bosa. So it's so much of the draft is your need and the luck of being there at a certain spot. I mean, you know, the Green Bay Packers were very lucky to have gotten Aaron Rodgers. I mean, if the Green Bay Packers thought Aaron Rodgers was what Aaron Rodgers turned out to be, he never would have lasted as long as he did, let alone be taken after Alex Smith.
Well, okay, so you mentioned Kyler Murray, and something came out recently. I think, Vern, you texted it to us. What did his agent do?
His agent, Berger, released a kind of an open letter, and he released it publicly, pretty much airing all, I don't want to say dirty laundry, but he kind of came from the standpoint of, here's my client. All my client has done is win. He would like to commit to this team, and he would like it to be for the long term. And in order to bring a championship to the Valley of the Sun, we need more of a commitment from the team. And we have asked for a long-term contract, and we've given them fair terms, and pretty much the ball is in their court, fans of the Arizona Cardinals. If you want to get behind and help us, Kyler, and the team move forward. So he pretty much put the team on the spot. Am I getting that right, Steve?
I don't necessarily think he put the team on the spot. I mean, he did write that letter, and I read the letter. I would never write a letter like that.
Seems unprofessional.
And I thought it made the agent. I thought personally it made the agent look like a fool. Kyler Murray is an incredible player. The leverage that the Cardinals have is they still have him under contract for 2 more seasons, and then they can then franchise him for a year after that. So they arguably have him for 3 more years. And the Cardinals are not a team that is frankly very easy to negotiate. I mean, they're very tough team to negotiate
with the Jameis Winston situation. You definitely have problems with, or you look at the situation that happened with Le'Veon Bell, where he just forced the team's hand. Eventually, the players are the ones that have the upper hand, even when teams hold a long-term contract. James Harden has been able to get himself traded 3 times or 2 times from places.
And now you're talking about a couple different issues. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, in football, in basketball for sure, players have the leverage to really push the envelope because one player makes such a difference. If there's ever a position that could happen in football, it's the quarterback position. And I was saying, in one sense, the Cardinals have leverage because of how long they have him under contract. Kyler has tremendous leverage also. One, he has the option to go play baseball, number one. And number two, he is the most important player on the team. And he has incredible leverage against them. I mean, given that they have that kind of leverage, I don't see how a public airing in any way aids that player. I mean, the typical Cardinal fan is not going to go to the Cardinal Stadium and bang on the door and say, give Kyler Murray $50 million. He might be worth $50 million. I mean, frankly, for what it's worth, it wouldn't surprise me if he eventually signs for over $50 million a year. But I just don't think the typical Joe public is sitting around saying, I'm really offended that Kyler Murray with 2 more years on his contract hasn't been paid.
You know, interesting, Steve.
He deserves to be paid, and he will be paid.
Steve, if you think about it.
I don't think a letter is the way to do it.
Steve, if you think about it, I mean, as I think about it, you know, like you said, you would never write a letter like that. And I wouldn't want to do that either, because I'm thinking if I'm his agent, the next time I have to deal with a client / owner, I mean, they're going to look and go, okay, who's this agent you're dealing with? You know, I don't think that bodes well. You know, go ahead.
I did not. I don't understand the tactics. I mean, to me, Kyler Murray should be in front of a camera in a 2-sentence statement, say, I love playing for the Cardinals and I just want to be treated fairly, and my agent's handling it. And then everything else should be behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, he has enormous leverage. He has enormous leverage. I mean, the team he is the team. He took a very bad team and has made them a playoff contender. He's one of the most exciting players in football.
Yeah.
I understand his frustration. He's making $5 million a year right now, which is no small sum, but he's making $5 million a year, which is frankly 1/9 of what his market value is. But he's still under contract.
And you got to figure that the agent isn't doing this without his permission, right?
I would assume you're right.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, it's difficult for me to get in the head of someone else.
Sure.
I just don't see how that approach helps get a deal done.
Steve, what percentage of clients, players come up to you and go, hey, look, Steve, hey, I don't really know a whole lot about the numbers. That's what I got you for. I mean, I just want to go to the gym. I just want to train. I just want to be peak performance. And I don't want to worry about all that business stuff. I want to leave that to you. What percentage of players do you have that kind of business relationship with?
Okay, Steve, don't answer that yet, because we got to cut to one more break.
Ooh, it's a tease.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Next on Dallas.
That's right. All right, JR. Okay, here's our second trivia question, baseball. What legend hit Yankee Stadium's first 2 World Series home runs? That's our trivia question. And you'll know the name. It's not, I mean, he's a legend, okay? You may not think of him as a legend, but he's a legend. Okay. What legend hit Yankee Stadium's first 2 World Series home runs? All right, that's our trivia question. Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown, Vern Glenn, Russell Jackman, and our special guest, Steve Baker, on the line here. Okay, guys, what legend hit Yankee Stadium's first 2 World Series home runs?
I'm going to guess Wally Pipp.
No,
I'm going to guess Lou Gehrig.
No?
I'm going to say Abner Doubleday.
Yeah. No, you ready for this? Casey Stengel.
Casey.
Wow. Oh, okay.
Casey Stengel, yeah. Now the next
store that one away.
Yeah, we'll give you a little easier one next time. All right, Steve Baker, go ahead and answer. Vern, set him up again. What was the question?
Well, again, the question is, I was just curious as to what percentage of players / clients pretty much give themselves to you and go, hey, look, Steve, you handle all the business stuff. I just want to put my hand in the dirt and make plays.
I think my clients trust me. I tend to represent very bright clients who trust my advice on things, but I've yet to ever meet a client that didn't have some inkling on what they thought they were worth ahead of time.
Oh, okay.
You know, again, there's certainly a lot of trust, and it's smart I think it's smart for an athlete to largely depend on his agent to maximize his situation. But you're dealing in a situation where everyone's salary is public. Everyone looks at a salary survey. People well know what their contemporaries make. So I think they are looking a little bit where they have some goals. Now, an important job that an agent has is reality basing the client. I mean, for example, let's say you're representing Kyler Murray. Jared Goff makes $35 million a year. No one thinks that Jared Goff is as good as Kyler Murray. I think Jared Goff is an underrated quarterback, but I don't think he's rated like Kyler Murray. The agent that wrote that letter might be saying, you need to be making more than Jared Goff tomorrow. Well, I mean, Kyler Murray's under contract, so that's not going to happen. The big job that an agent does besides negotiate with the team is helping educate and reality base his client for the situation he's in.
But it's not just the specific dollars and cents. There's ways to structure it, deferred comp,
without question. I mean, for example, for a cup of coffee, Jimmy Garoppolo was the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Actually, a cup of coffee in the last 5 weeks. But even during those 5 weeks, the structure of Jimmy Garoppolo's contract did not structure as much guaranteed money as other deals, which is part of the reason why the Niners are in such good shape with Jimmy Garoppolo, because Pragmate, their negotiator, structured the contract in a very team-friendly way.
Do you think Garoppolo is going to wind up staying with the 49ers? Do you think the Niners are going to trade him off? And what do you think the Niners would get for Garoppolo if they trade him?
My instinct is the Niners will have to trade him or release him, because I don't think they can carry his salary cap number this year. But his salary cap number is $20 million below the top of the market for a franchise quarterback. So conceivably, I think the Niners could conceivably hold on to Garoppolo and hold on to Lance. In terms of a trade, it's interesting. I think they would have a hard time getting much more than a third rounder for him, but I could be wrong. And as Adam Schefter reported a couple of days ago, if the Niners hold on to Jimmy Garoppolo for another year and then he goes to free agency, they would get a third rounder's compensation for him, most likely based on the deal he would get. So, they could trade him to another team to get his salary cap off the books, and the team gives them a third rounder. And that team knows that if they lose Garoppolo the next year, they get the third rounder back. So that might be the deal you end up seeing happening. I mean, I'm sure the Niners are trying to get higher than a third rounder.
Well, if they keep him, are they going to start Trey Lance?
I mean, again, I'm not in the 49ers war room right now, but obviously Trey Lance is the future. But a lot of people believe that Trey Lance isn't quite ready yet. Now, he might just have to be ready for the second season.
That's how you do it.
What's your thought? What's your thought?
I trust Kyle Shanahan's judgment. I suspect that Trey Lance will eventually be a tremendous quarterback. But whether the Niners obviously have a team that is Super Bowl competitive ready right now, and that's why I think there's a possibility that maybe they try to keep both. I don't think that'll happen, but I think it's a possibility.
If it should come to where Garoppolo leaves the team, I have to believe there has to be a veteran backup, if you were, quarterback on that roster. I mean, there's got to be somebody that can come in and just step in if the young fellow struggles.
Well, I have one friend who nightly goes to bed watching Ozark and then dreams of the day that Tom Brady comes to the 49ers. and again, Tom Brady has a history of being willing to take below market deals. His last deal was substantially below market with substantial incentives based on winning. I'm sure the 49ers, if they could get Tampa to do something, wouldn't hesitate to do a salary cap friendly deal with Tom Brady that fits him under their cap and rewards him if he brings them to a Super Bowl.
Well, especially
that's the perfect scenario, but there will be a lot of turning. There would have to be a lot of moving pieces for that to happen.
Well, his parents live locally. What better way for him to come back home? But hey, Steve, while we still have you on the phone, I know you wanted to talk about the MLB lockout. What are your opinions about that? As we sit right now, there's still a lockout. Could change the next few.
Well, again, as we record this show, both sides are still speaking. Yeah. They're still negotiating.
No, I mean, listen, I think this. I've always believed that John Public just gets offended when the players ask for more money and when the owners ask for more money. I mean, it's something that publicly it's a difficult case to win in an era of 7% inflation and all the problems people have. People aren't upset whether players with 2 years of service or 3 years service are compensated. In this particular case, though, it wouldn't shock you, particularly given what I do for a living, that I think the players have the moral high ground on this. I mean, the owners have substantially abused the system over the last few years to some teams tanking, some teams not trying to win, and messing with players' service. I mean, players get paid based on whether they're arbitration eligible and free agency eligible. And you see one example of Chris Bryant this year when he was traded to the Giants. His relationship with the Cubs was largely fractured years ago when the Cubs kept him in the minor leagues an extra year so that he would delay when he hit free agency. I think that's unfair. I think as much as you see these large salaries that players are paid, it's a very small group of people that get that kind of money. And
now I got to ask you, because you represent the players. How much of your opinion is skewed toward that?
No, I obviously I acknowledge that I'm not an independent agent on this, but I really do try to look at both sides of this. I mean, I certainly recognize the team's right to earn a profit. I really do try to see both sides, but I'm just saying there's such a small percentage of players that ever reach the point that they can make a real living in Major League Baseball. I mean, for every Chris Bryant, there's some guy playing in the minor leagues for minimum wage or less.
Yeah, didn't they just change that recently again? It's like they were going to pay him, and then now they kind of backed off on that.
I'm sorry?
Didn't they change that? Just like the minor leaguers were going to get paid more, but then
the owners have on a table a proposal to pay the minor leaguers more,
but less.
The minor leaguers are paid but again, where the players are really, for lack of and I feel, again, when you're talking millions of dollars, I hate to use the word abuse, but I'll use it because it's the most effective word I could think of. Where the players are abused is they begin to be paid fairly after they've been in the league for 3 years. And what's happened is teams increasingly keep their players down in the minor leagues for an extra long time, so they qualify 1 year later for that extra year. And that's had a huge effect on young players making much less than they would have made under the previous situation. And the situation's really been abused.
But you think that right? I mean, I understand the idea of keeping them down to save that extra money, but if it's going to be the difference between winning and losing, on a World Series, I mean, the whole idea is you bring these players in because you want to win. And
listen, I think it's irrefutable that Chris Bryant was brought up to the major leagues later than when he was ready.
Yeah,
it's irrefutable. That happens all the time, and there's just a lot. What's happened is they've constructed a system, and the owners over the last few years have erected certain barriers that limit limiting players to reach their potential. Now, again, I understand John Q. Public when they see the kind of money that a Scherzer signs for, or when you see hundreds of millions of dollars of contracts, I understand that the average person isn't offended by that. I'm not offended by a guy getting a few dollars less, but the system has been taken advantage of over the last few years, and I think the Players Association has made the decision we need to step up now and prevent that from continuing to happen.
I think baseball's the hardest of all of them because you got to, generally you're going through single A, double A, triple A, and then going in versus football. You get out of college, boom, you're in. Basketball.
Well, it's funny. Right. Edward, I used to teach a law school class and in sports law. And in my final exam, I gave my students a player who was an All-American, and he had the choice of playing baseball, basketball, or football. And I asked them the question, in which sport will he make the most money? And beyond money, other career issues and things like that. And baseball is very interesting because long-term, probably the sport where you have the potential to make the most money is baseball because of the longevity of your career. And of the three sports, it's the only sport that doesn't have a salary cap. But
okay. Hey, Steve, hold on a second. We had to cut to one more break. Okay, we're talking baseball here. What brothers were the first to both hit All-Star game home runs? What brothers were the first to both hit All-Star game home runs? All right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back with some closing comments. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn, Russell Jackman, and our special guest, Steve Baker. Okay, here's the question. What brothers were the first to both hit All-Star game home runs?
Joe DiMaggio.
I'll guess the DiMaggios.
Okay, DiMaggio, yes. And which ones?
Joe and Dom?
Dom and Joe.
No, Joe and Vince.
Vince DiMaggio.
Yeah, Joe hit one in 1939 and Vince hit it in 1943. All
Okay.
right.
Like on the Friday New York Times news quiz, do I get partial credit?
Yeah, you get partial credit. Yeah, and by the way, the Russia is being suspended from the World Cup, and the ruble is plummeting, and Putin apparently is making businesses sell inventory and making them purchase rubles to prop up the price. What a guy! I'll tell you.
Wow.
Okay, ready for our thoughts for the day? Okay, so here, it's just one big thought. So I'm sitting on a park bench with a friend watching the time go by, and there's an old hound dog lying on the ground in front of us. The old dog lifts his hind leg and starts to lick his private parts, as dogs always seem to do. And my friend says, boy, I wish I could do that. And after a short pause, I said, well, go ahead. He looks like a friendly dog.
We can't see your expression right now. I'm glad we can't see your expression right now.
That's a good one.
That
is a good one.
I thought you'd like that. All right. Well, Steve Baker, thank you again for joining us. It's always a pleasure. You're always welcome back. It was good stuff to have you on. And with that, we're going to say our adieu. So, audience, tune in.
Thank you for having me.
What's that?
See you next week, everybody.
All right. Tune in next week.
Thank you.
Sports Econ 101. We'll be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and asking more sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
In the lockout,
Adios.
America.
So long.
Adios.